All right, we're continuing with the beautiful, happy, wonderful, holy mimer of the previous of the Rebbe, of the previous Rebbe, of the Rebbe, based on a mimer of the previous Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said this in 1979, and it's based on a discourse, a Hasidic discourse that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said in 1949. And it's talking about the Jews going out of Egypt. And not only the Jews have to go out of Egypt, but the Jews have to go out of Egypt. Every Jew, me and you, we have to go out of Egypt every day and every moment. And that's why it says, like the days that we left Egypt, God said, I will show you miracles. Just like the Jews left Egypt back then with amazing miracles. So every day we have to leave Egypt. And what will the miracles people see? We'll see what the miracles God is going to show. Infinitely greater miracles than those that when we left Egypt. So the Rebbe explains that going out of Egypt does not just mean a political thing or a geological move or a change of venue or even a change in politics. You get a new leader or something like that's going out of Egypt, or getting a degree, or maybe winning the lottery. That's not really going out of Egypt. Going out of Egypt now is you want to call it a spiritual thing, an essential thing, a personal, human, intimate connection with the creator of the universe. And it's not necessarily even spiritual. Spiritual, we're going to see, spiritual can be Egypt. Spiritual can be Egypt. As we well know, the Egyptians were very spiritual people. I remember before I was religious, it was like 50 years ago. So I got interested. Don't ask me how. It's a whole big story in mysticism. So there's this book called the Egyptian Book of the Dead. You ever heard of this book? One of the most. You ever hear of it? Well, anyway, definitely not a bestseller, but it is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and it talks about what happens after a person dies and how you should prepare for dying and what happens afterwards. Pretty interesting, right? Then there's also another book called the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which if you ask me, a little more interesting, but I don't remember anything, basically what was back then, what it said. But it did talk about that these people claimed that they knew exactly what was going to happen after you died, that it's just the spiritual levels you go to. So the Egyptians were very spiritual people. Also now they have these Tibetan Buddhists that are very spiritual people. They meditate, and they can put them into like freezing cold water that's like 10 degrees below zero, and they evaporate it. They're just amazing things that they can do with their body. They can float in the air and all this. And so all this stuff is very impressive. It's true, really impressive. You can be the head of the party, but that's not Judaism. That's not Judaism. Judaism also makes use of the spiritual, no doubt about it, because the spiritual that's creations of God, and you have to be impressed and inspired by every creation of God, especially the spiritual worlds. The spiritual worlds, it's a whole different sort of creation that really shows us that the physical is not so important as we think it is. There's angels, and there't all these spiritual worlds and levels of consciousness and this that make this world look like a what is it, a playground, or even one of these what is it, Nintendo. They even have these things. You used to have these little video games. The world is not really real, even though people really get into video games. But people also get even more into the world. Well, all the spiritual worlds are so much more real than this world, and so much more. It says that you take all the pleasures of this world that you can get from this physical world. It's not like 1 second of going to heaven. But nevertheless, all these levels of heaven and these things, they're just creations. And that's not the reason why we're here, is in order to receive these creations. We're not here in order to receive these pleasures. That's not why we're here. It's not the reason why we're here. What? According to Chassidut, if you look in the book, what is it called? The Path of the Just, the Mesulah Yesharim, it says that's the whole reason we're here, is to get pleasure. It's not. According to Chassidut, definitely not. The reason that we're in this world is in order to serve the creator of all these. What reward do we get? Who cares? Not our part. But now the Rebbe is going to see what is it, what happens in the end, the result of not caring about rewards, caring only about serving the creator. And that's called going out of Egypt. Going out of Egypt. Going out of Egypt means going out of your selfish desires, even your spiritual selfish desires. If you have a desire that you want to serve God, you want to do the Torah, you want to do the commandments, in order to get to heaven, to get to higher levels, it's good. What's wrong with that? You're a big tzaddik. You learn Torah, you do the commandments, you're a wonderful person, you look religious, you have a beard, you have the light in your eyes, everything, wonderful. But that, according to Chassidut, is called being in Egypt. And that will not bring the Mashiach. Not. And when it does bring the Mashiach, you won't want. There's a famous story that there were a lot of religious Jews that really did not like the first Rebbe of Chabad, called Rabbi Shneur Zalman. He was a tremendous genius. If you don't believe it, you can read the Shulchan Aruch Harav or the book Tanya. A tremendous genius in this mystical aspect of the Torah and the revealed aspect of the Torah. I don't know if there's ever anybody like him. You can look at the book, the Shulchan Aruch Harav, and you can see that it's just incomparable. But he had a lot of enemies. And I don't know if he had as many enemies as King David. King David, everybody hated him. And also with Moses. They hated Moses also. Oh, the Korach convinced everybody. Nevertheless, he had a lot of enemies. And they eventually put him into prison. That's Yutet Kislev. We'll talk about that later on. And he got out of prison. It was released, miraculously was released from prison. And these enemies that he had, they confronted him. And they said, oh, now the Mashiach is going to come, the Messiah is going to come. And he said to them, the Mashiach that you want is never going to come. And the Mashiach that's going to come, you're not going to want. Because without the teachings of Chassidut, and it's not the only way, there's certainly great tzaddikim, especially from the Sephardic tzaddikim. Without the teachings of Chassidut, as a person thinks, what is Mashiach? It's going to be good to me. I'm going to get, money and pleasure and learn Torah. It's going to be just fantastic. It's going to be amazing. The world is going to be just glowing and shining and everything. And that could be true. That's true. It will be. It says there won't be any problems. But that's not what we want Mashiach for. That's not what we want Mashiach for. And that's not what Mashiach is going to provide. Those are side things that are going to happen. Those are side benefits. But the main thing of Mashiach, it's like a person wanting to be a doctor because he makes a lot of money. He makes a lot of money. That makes him happy. Well, he's missing the point. What should really make him happy is when he makes somebody healthy, feeling life. And that's the whole point here, is to feel life. So that's what the Rebbe is going to say. Going out of Egypt means going out of any levels of selfishness, even holy selfishness, even Jewish selfishness. Hello? What? Hello?
Hello, yes.
You okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't understand. All right, now this is my pupil here. My pupil today. We're in the corona virus thing, so other people will see this video, but the live pupil we have here. Dalid. Mamshich ba'maimer, it continues in the previous Rebbe, continues in his Maimer. And he says, one second, what I just said, let's just make a short break and then we'll go back to the